learn how to meet each moment with this sense of ease, with this kind of softness, not trying to fight against everything that's happening, learning how to deal with your emotions without fighting your emotions, learning that you don't have to believe all your thoughts. You can just notice your thoughts and then choose which ones to believe or not.
Well, hello, my name is Steve, and this is the place where we celebrate everyday people just like you, making good happen each and every day. Welcome to World Gone Good. Have you heard our exciting news? We are going live. Sunday, February 9th at 9:30 a.m., we will be recording our first ever live episode at Conscious Life Expo. You can be there to experience all the good, as well as all the conscious life living stuff. Simply visit consciouslifeexpo.com for all the info. Love to see you in person. If you can make it, give you a hug, give you a handshake, give you a fist bump, and whatever good you want to do. It's going to be a good time. Go to consciouslifeexpo.com for the full details. Okay, so here's a question I bet you haven't been asked. Do you treat yourself gently? Have you even thought about how you treat yourself? Or has life been so busy and so crazy that who has the time to think about anything gently when we are all just going? My guest today would like you, me, all of us, to be more gentle with yourself, myself, ourselves. He's asking we do this for multiple reasons, most importantly, our own health. And he knows a little something about health because he has been practicing medicine and working to heal people for a few decades now. Dr. Jay Winner and I met for coffee to record this episode. That is correct. You heard me. I am practicing this whole go out live thing that's about to come up at the Conscious Life Expo that I got to go to next month. And I got to get it down. So practice makes perfect, I suppose. What you're about to join in on is our in-person, face-to-face conversation at one of my favorite coffee shops. So if you hear some cars or some random conversation, just go with it. This is the very thing he teaches, to live presently, mindfully, even when distractions pop up. We simply acknowledge them as part of our surroundings, and we continue to stay in our moment. And now we acknowledge our lead-in music. Here comes Dr. Jay Winner, physician, stress manager, and author, to share some good times with us. Well, this is a good time had by all already because I've only done this one other time, and I'm actually in the same exact location I was the last time I did this. Huh. So we are actually live out and about in public. Oh, wait, that's not true. I went to the farmer's market one time and recorded there.
Well, that's even busier.
Yeah, way busier. There's all these voices of people. So yeah. I am sitting here at Handlebar, giving them a shout out, having coffee with Dr. See, there's proof. Somebody opening their car. Dr. Jay Winner is with me. Now, I have one quick question to start this whole thing. Dr. Winner, last name Winner. Mm-hmm. Difficult or not to be called Winner as your last name?
Well, somebody just commented that, but then I cashed a check went into the bank to get some money just today. It's kind of funny about that. So second time in one day. But in general, great last name, but I don't think you can have anything as a child and not get teased about it, right? You're going to get, if your name's Winner, somebody's going to call you loser. If your name is, pretty, you're going to be called ugly, whatever it is. So that's just the nature of childhood. But overall, great last name. I got to thank my dad for it.
And a great first name because it was my dad's first name.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
When I was little, we used to get those like mailers that would come to like kids for like Boys Life and stuff.
Yeah.
And for some reason, there was a typo and I could never live this down. On all of the addresses, I was Staven, Staven, and like it became a running joke with my older brother constantly. He's like, Staven, you got some mail. I'm like, stop it, my name's not Staven. So yeah, Good time to open it up.
Yeah, those kind of typos can be crazy. We had one for my partners. We used to have our office on Hitchcock Way with an H, but for one of my partner's cards, they had a B instead of a H. It was really kind of, I'm hoping they didn't hand out too many of those cards,
Okay,
but
wait.
I never found that
So
out.
I say this kindly. You're old enough to appreciate this.
Okay.
I'll explain this, what I'm pulling out in a second. My editor sent me this because he has a bunch of these from when he worked at NBC.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that insane?
That is cool.
So what he's holding
cool.
is a business card that is for the Rockford Files, the old TV show, which I just started watching again randomly on Roku because I was like, I don't know that I don't remember them because I was actually a little young for it. So I started watching them, but he has business cards from James Rockford. So I said, that's cool. So I just opened the mail today and I got a James Rockford. So you can't keep that. I can keep it as memory.
Okay.
So, all right, let's tell everybody how you know me and how I know you. How do we know each other?
I work with your husband.
Yes.
Yes.
He's a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
You're a doctor. What kind of doctor?
I'm a family physician, and I also do lifestyle medicine. I also teach stress reduction classes. I also teach healthy lifestyle and mindfulness, and how the two can help each other.
When did you make that switch over? Is this something you've been doing forever? Did you have a moment yourself that was like, this is the moment that I myself am looking at medicine a different way?
Well, when I first got into medicine, it was really, I'm 18 years of age and I go to some career counselor and it's like, family medicine, that sounds good. And probably about a year or so later, I'm 18, 19 in high school, and I started, I had, I think, a really, some life-changing events where I realized how many people suffer when they don't need to suffer, and how many of my classmates in college and friends and family just were not doing well emotionally. And I thought, wow, wouldn't this be amazing to take care of the whole person? To have the basics of family medicine anyhow is supposed to be the biopsychosocial model. It's supposed to be the model where we care about the whole person. And I felt, what a perfect thing to care about a whole person and be able to share not only something about their physical health, but their emotional health and how that interacts with each other.
There's a whole idea out there that pharmaceuticals have some influence over doctors, and doctors write prescriptions because they get kickbacks, and we hear all these stories. What's the truth to that? Is there truth to that?
Well, I think maybe some get kickbacks. That's not a common thing. I think more commonly is, they might buy access to physicians just by treating them to lunch, and then they could give their spiel, and maybe that would change what physicians thought a little bit. A while back, we stopped doing any sort of pharmaceutical lunches, and I was happy that the staff wasn't so happy because they liked the free food.
Right.
But there were some physicians that, as you know, with the whole opiate scandal, there were some physicians that were supposed to be the experts that were being paid off, and that kind of sullied the whole situation.
But I bring that up because of what we were just talking about, because it's a different way of looking at how to handle an illness, how to handle stress, how to handle life. Is take a pill versus make a change.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily versus.
Okay, great.
I think it's in addition to. I mean, I have so much training, and most of the doctor's training is in the pills and procedures and that kind of thing. And they really do have their use. If somebody's having, in the midst of having a chest pain, that's not the time to just say, well, let's take a while and talk about your diet.
Let's breathe.
Let's deal with the chest pain. Or they need a surgery emergently. That Western medicine is fantastic with that. But when it comes to preventing chronic illness, lifestyle medicine, healthy habits can prevent about 80% of chronic disease and 40% of premature death. Right. So that's where it's really key. And I don't think that really I have gotten a lot of pushback. I think physicians know that, but a lot of physicians either don't have the training or they don't have the time.
Right.
And even I sometimes, once I have somebody come into the office and I have a 20-minute appointment and they have a problem list of a dozen problems, already having heart failure and diabetes and chronic kidney disease. I do what I can to talk about their lifestyle, usually try to get that in, but I'm so busy adjusting their medications that sometimes there is less time for that. But it is really key nonetheless. And when it comes to stress reduction in particular, that takes some more time, which is why I started teaching stress reduction classes. So I'd have more like 6 hours to talk to somebody and share some insights as opposed to trying to all fit it into a short appointment. The amount of suffering that I said with preventing all those diseases, but just think about the cost. Think about the cost of somebody now, instead of having a healthy lifestyle, spending 20, and again, you can do that. Medicine definitely has their place. I prescribe it. But, maybe if they had a healthy lifestyle, they wouldn't need $20,000 a year of medication. And then despite that, sometimes they still need $150,000 surgery, like a heart bypass surgery. And then maybe even after that, then they still have a stroke or dementia and they required skilled nursing at $100,000 a year. Or they need not only them, but their family all of a sudden needs to maybe quit a job and just become a full-time caregiver.
Right.
I mean, the cost to society, and it is really, I think, something to think deeply about, is that in a way people are, you say you do some marketing, but people are really, controlled by marketing. It's like, yes, let's eat a lot of fast food and then get unhealthy, but I can fix that with having these, expensive prescriptions, but they're still going to be less healthy than if they just, made some simple lifestyle choices.
You talk about stress.
Okay.
And this is a really overall question. Why are we so stressed as a society right now, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I think we're not going to totally get rid of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is very much part of us, and we don't want to necessarily demonize stress, because actually the way we contextualize stress, if we think it's terrible, then we start getting stressed out about being stressed, and it's more harmful.
Right.
And it's changed. It actually changes the cardiovascular response to stress when you think stress is all bad. So stress, if we can learn to manage our stress, to sometimes reduce our stress, but also use our stress sometimes, and have it build resilience in reasonable amounts, then we can thrive more. Every generation thinks that this is the most stressful time in the world. Imagine, World War II.
Right. Right.
Imagine the Cold War, and you're thinking a nuclear bomb's likely to go off, and you're doing, I don't know, were you old enough that when you're in school, they would have you put your hands go under your desk because a nuclear bomb might go off?
Looking back, it's like, what did they really think that little desk was going to do?
Crazy, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
But then you have what we have now, which is very unfortunate, which is the school shootings, which I never dealt with. You never dealt with.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's like I see a bunch of kids walking alone. I'm like, where are their parents? Why are they alone? But then I think to myself, I don't have kids. But when I was a kid, we used to walk to school 7-8 blocks by ourselves. We walked to the bus stop. We'd walk in the woods. No one knew where the hell we were for hours at a time.
Yeah, and there's a whole, actually pretty good book about that. You may have heard of The Anxious Generation. And the argument there is we should be a little less worried about our kids in the real world and more worried about kids in the virtual world. And that's a whole other topic.
Yep.
But financial stress is always a big one. There are a lot of people struggling. And there are people that are, living in really horrible conditions. A lot of people, not in this country and in the midst of war. I mean, that's really when people have stress. But just the day-to-day, stress of surviving and different ways of dealing with that are super important.
Now, you wrote a book called Relaxation on the Run.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to write the book?
That's a very interesting question. What first happened is I had a class teaching for 6 hours, and then I just hand out class notes. And then those class notes became a first version of a book. And then that used that. And then I kind of made that to an updated version. And this is actually the third version of a stress reduction book that I did. So this last one, I don't know. Probably, in one way you could say, it took a couple of years. On the other way, you could say it took, 20 years. So it's hard to
quantify.
Yeah.
But you have a giant bibliography at the end.
Yeah.
There are many people that you are pulling from, that you've learned from, but then there also has to be your own evolution. Did you find paths as you were going that you're like, I didn't think of it this way, and then you start going down a path yourself? Or did you have a set, this is what I want to, a little bit of both?
Everything, when you are a teacher in this kind of way, if you want to be, I think, a good teacher, is at the same time, you learn from other people, but everything you say is also your experience.
Right.
I've digested a lot of different material, a lot of different classes and workshops and untold numbers of books, movies, whatever. The whole book is really just speaking from my experience of what I've seen works for me and my patients. So at the same time, I couldn't have written the book if I hadn't learned all the information, but everything is really coming out of my own voice, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And what I found really interesting is that the final chapter, you actually say, I'm going to paraphrase you, that you were thinking about beginning with this chapter. Beginning with the end is, in so many words, is what you say there.
Anything as far as mindfulness, stress reduction shouldn't be thought of, okay, I've read a book and now I've mastered it. I don't have to do anything more. But the idea is that it is a lifelong ambition. I can't think of much else that's more worthwhile in life besides wanting to be more present for your life. Besides wanting to learn how to treasure each moment, savor each moment, deal with stress well, have close relationships. And I think one of the analogies I made there, metaphors, is I had great grades in calculus when I was, when I was in high school. I was really a math whiz, really good. I couldn't tell you anything about calculus
today. Sure.
Right. But you know what? They had a typing class. I was a terrible I think at that time it was a thing that just secretaries did. I don't think I'll be a secretary. Now everybody, of course, needs to type. But I do that every single day, and I'm way, way better at typing, even though I didn't necessarily have that talent for it than I am at calculus. So it is the idea that there's these very important things at life, but what really incorporates into your life, if it's a practice, is a practice that you do every single day, both what we might call formally and informally throughout the day, is that you learn how to meet each moment with this sense of ease, with this kind of softness, not trying to fight against everything that's happening, learning how to deal with your emotions without fighting your emotions, learning that you don't have to believe all your thoughts. You can just notice your thoughts and then choose which ones to believe or not. So that day-to-day practicing, I'm hoping people go through the book and then it's like, that's your introduction. Now begin with your life. Now this is the beginning. Every moment is a new beginning, really.
Yeah, you have a really interesting quote at the end, which I'm going to read. I have to put on the old man glasses. Yeah. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. William Butler Yeats.
Yeah.
I know it was Yeats.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, let's start there. Yeats, because I was just looking at a sign the other day that said legend. And I'm like, God love the English language because legend should be legend. Let's talk about that quote though, right?
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that because it's more of a spark than it is a, half full, half empty. Did I get enough? Did I do enough? Is that how you see it?
I think that a lot of the things when it comes to stress reduction, mindfulness, healthy lifestyle, you can know all of it intellectually, and that can get you a little more, that and the $5 can get you a cup of coffee. Actually, it was a little more here.
It was a little bit better.
but I got a decaf cappuccino with oat milk that they charged more for. But that's another. That's
a whole other story of why we have to pay more for good things that are healthy. Keep going.
So anyhow, part of teaching is really inspiring people to really put that into practice. Mindfulness, for instance, is one of the skills I talk about, one of the more important ones. It is really a skill.
Mm-hmm.
You could read a lot of books on how to ride a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to get out there and ride and learn what it feels like. And once you learn how it feels like to ride a bicycle, it's an experiential thing.
And it's also a very present thing, because especially when you're learning, you are watching how fast you're going. You're watching when you have to stop. You're watching the road. You're watching things around you. And you come into that mindfulness and that presentness and that groundedness, even though you're moving. But then later as time goes on, it's second nature to you, and it's just
so
instinctual.
Yeah. And that, also, when we talk about some things being on automatic pilot and some things being real present for, automatic pilot isn't necessarily so bad sometimes.
It's not.
Right. You need that sort of drive your car and have a conversation and whatever else. But sometimes when we're not noticing where our thoughts are, sometimes we can get in trouble, because then we can just start believing all our thoughts.
Yeah.
And then, I'm no good at anything. And I have problems with that. When we can just be present enough just to notice, oh, I'm thinking now. Oh, and then having some of that time where we can savor life, where we can really fully taste that tea or that cup of coffee and maybe feel the warmth in our face, and really just try to get the most that we can to life. I mean, I think that's one of the key things of living. And we can also, there's also less suffering. It's an accepting type of awareness, but it's almost more like non-rejecting. Do you get that? It's like you're just really there. You're not actively saying, oh, I accept this crappy stuff, or I hate this crap. It's just like you're just present for life as it is. And it's a practice. It is really just about this moment right here. There was an old book that way back when that people think is called, the title is Be Here Now by Ram Dass. Actually, the title is Remember Be Here Now. Because that's the key, is that the more you practice, the more you're also just practice remembering and being just so gentle with yourself. If you took a half an hour period, and let's say you're meditating for half an hour, if you just gently learn to refocus every time you notice that your mind's drifted, then you're going to be there a lot more total time than if you start thinking, I can't do this right. What's wrong? I have too many things to do. I don't know, and one story leads to a next story, which leads to a next story, which leads to a next story. And then sometimes you just want to say, is this really what I want to do there? You wake up and you say, is this really how I want to spend my time? Or do I want to be more present? Do I want to taste that bit of food? Do I want to be present with the people in my life and really fully listen to them in a deep, caring kind of way?
So you've said a few times about being more gentle, specifically with ourselves.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
People can be very critical of themselves. If you're not talking to yourself like a good friend, then maybe it's time just to notice that. And just noticing is just enough sometimes, Oh yeah, I'm being really critical of myself. And there's, that's, I wouldn't tell my good friend like that. I wouldn't treat my good friend like that.
Right. And how many times do we, and I've done it myself. I have friends who do this. You find a photograph of yourself. Mm-hmm. This is before there was social media where we all pretending to be way more important than we actually are.
Yeah.
But you find an old photo of yourself and you look at that photo and you say, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm thinking in this photo. At least I have done this.
Yeah.
And look at myself and go, I'm thinking negative things about myself. And I have a friend, an old friend who was constantly talking about her weight. And she was a whopping, 5'8" and weighed 130 pounds. And all of us were like, what is what is the problem with your, like, none of us could understand, but it was how she saw herself.
Right.
So many years went by and she had put on some weight over time, as we all do, many people do with age. And there was this photo she showed me and she said, and it was of us from a long time ago. And she goes, do you remember this photo? And I go, yeah. And she goes, what am I thinking in this photo? And I said, oh, you're thinking my weight, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. And she goes, look at me, I'm tiny. I said, we all tried to tell you. And she was like, where was I? And I said, you're in the same place I was when I was losing my hair, or when I was, seeing a photo of myself and seeing a giant Santa belly, or whatever it was that I thought, or even just thinking negatively about myself.
Yeah.
And it's such a reflective process to just look back and go, why was I so hard on myself?
And why was appearance the most important thing?
Yep.
Right. And what beauty there can be in just being present with another person.
Right.
Right. And, I think some people wait to their deathbeds to figure that out if they ever do it all.
The last breath.
Yeah. But it's, people, I was just listening to some of the people and I've had that experience. I haven't had somebody come to me and, dying from something, thinking, wow, I wish I would have worked more. And I wish I had more of a six pack. And I wish I had, whatever. I want to be around my family and my friends. And I kind of wish maybe I spent more time with my kids, right?
Right.
Or I spent more time with this. If they have regrets, it's, those are the deep regrets. When you start realizing what life's really about, because I don't think any of us get out of this alive, right?
No, we've got two things in common. We both got here screaming, and most of us are leaving screaming, but hopefully not.
Hopefully not. It's good to reflect what's most meaningful. And to some people, it is, I need to visit as many places as I can visit in the world. And, there's no way we're going to ever visit all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of carbon.
A lot of time.
A lot of time. I mean, it's kind of cool seeing different things, but sometimes even just being home and just being with your loved one and just having dinner together.
Being by yourself.
Yeah. Watching the sunset.
Yeah.
Can be more meaningful.
I think sometimes when we think about, it's a new year, right? And it's resolutions and I've got to make these giant changes and I've got to do all the changes at once. Yes and no.
Yeah.
We can just lean in toward those things. We can add a walk.
Yeah.
To our day. We can, whatever it is, add a meditation, add a nap. I used to lay down on my floor of my cubicle with my head under the desk and just close my eyes for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I had people stop by like, whoa. And I'd hear, are you okay? And I'd be like, yes. And I'd say, and they'd start laughing. And it became a joke with my friend Craig. He just stopped by and go, uh-oh, you're napping. I'm like, I am. Come see me in 8 minutes. Because I just needed that little bit of, again, time to be present and not have all the things coming at me.
I mean, it brings up maybe the whole thing about taking that break and the idea about formal and informal mindfulness practice. Are you familiar with that distinction?
Tell us all about it.
Okay. Well, formal mindfulness practice, I think, is what most people think of, is that you're sitting down and meditating.
Mm-hmm.
And one way of meditating might be just to notice the sensation of your breath. And you can just do it with just it's not a strain, it's just a soft focus and, just kind of noticing the sensation maybe in your belly or somewhere else. The breath goes in and out and your mind wanders and then you're gently returning it. And you can meditate with a variety. You can meditate with sound. You can meditate with body sensations. And even focusing on things like emotions and eventually even just you're practicing this gentle kind of awareness, this awareness where you're noticing everything with a sense of ease, whether it be emotion, whatever else, and just refocusing down. And there's mindfulness meditation where you just, you're not really specifically focused on one thing, but you're noticing whatever comes into your awareness with that sense of ease. So those are all forms of formal meditation practice. You're saying, I'm going to set aside this time in my day, this 10 minutes where I'm going to practice because otherwise a lot of times I'm really busy in my day. I don't have, I might not be as astute at noticing those kind of thoughts that I'm having and really paying attention to them. Informal practice is just going about living your day with what you've learned. So when you're talking to somebody, You can notice if you're really present or not. When you're walking, you can feel your footsteps on the ground. You can feel the sun on your skin or the breeze. You can, if you're in a forest, smell the pine. When you're eating, you can just really get lost in feeling, you know, you can bring all your senses involved. You can smell the aroma. You can feel the warmth of some tea. You can hear the sound of crunching. You can get the texture in your mouth. And of course the taste is.
And one thing is you can put the fork down.
Actually,
I learned that.
Yeah. And make each bite.
Right.
The full experience.
Right.
It's like how many servings you have. Each bite is the full experience. So I had 30 servings this meal, as opposed to trying to get to the next bite when you're at this site. Always, there's this sense sometimes that we're trying to get to the next moment, right? We're kind of living a little bit ahead of ourselves.
100%.
We just want to be, and just being able to kind of sit back and practice being present for our audience. So day to day, that's the informal practice.
And that can also be true when we're not having a good time, when we're having sickness or pain.
Yeah.
I had a piriformis issue. I've talked about it on this show as I use it as a reference.
Yeah.
And nothing made me more present at that time than having a piriformis.
Yeah.
The pain of a 9 out of 10. And telling myself, I've talked about this on here. Sorry to everyone listening who's sick of hearing this. I would set the stopwatch and tell myself, I'm going to allow myself the next 8, 9, 10, whatever minutes to be at this level of pain. But after that, I have to either have a shift in my focus, get away from it, have less of it, have more of it, but I can't sit in this moment. But I'm going to allow myself to sit in this moment for this time to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. And mindfulness.
Which is a little sadomasochistic, but whatever.
Well, mindfulness is an important tool in dealing with both physical and emotional pain.
Right.
Because a lot of times, a lot of the suffering, I think I feel the pain starting again. Oh no, not this pain. However living, the pain hasn't even ramped up yet. And then it's there. And then, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to live this way? And the pain maybe has even started to subside, but you're not with it. So you don't even notice that. You start noticing that pain, for instance, isn't just a physical sensation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole experience that includes a physical sensation along with thoughts about it and along with an emotion about it. So it's this complex. So be able to simplify and say, there I'm thinking I'll never be able to live with this. And there's, what am I feeling? I'm kind of feeling some sadness now. And I'm also, it's just that sensation. And if I tighten around it, I have more spasm. What happens if I kind of soften the area? So, but again, I'm a doctor and I'm always going to also recommend that, maybe in certain circumstances, medication, you don't have
a little Klonopin won't kill you.
Yeah. You don't just deal with pain to deal with it, but sometimes we're never going to get through life with a zero pain, right? There's always going to be some discomfort. So even with the best medication, so we need to learn to deal with it. There's a mindfulness teacher, Vidyamala Birch, and she had gone through, I recommend her for people really dealing with chronic pain because she had this horrible back injury and all these kind of surgeries, just terrible, terrible pain. One night, actually, the pain was so bad, she thought to herself, I don't know if I can get through this night. And then she thought to herself, I wonder if I can just get through it just for this breath. And she could. And then she did for the next breath. And she realized the only time we need to deal with something's right now because everything else is actually imaginary. You can't show me the past. Well, you can show me thoughts about the past picture. Can't show me the future. You can't do that. So it is in our experiential way, maybe not for a quantum physicist. Any past are just thoughts, are just some memories. I can kind of remember what that felt like, but it's all those thoughts are really still in the present right now.
Where do people get the book?
Well, you can get the book, I guess, at bookstores or online, Amazon or other booksellers, Relaxation on the Run. Oh, and I have a lot of free resources on my website I should tell people about.
Go for it.
So stressremedy.com. There's free meditations. There's free videos on just dealing with stress in general. There's I talk about other mindfulness apps and, little discussions so you can think about what other ones you may want that are free, and some are not free, some in different languages. I got a lot of resources, meditations, special things for healthcare practitioners, because I lecture a lot for different healthcare practitioners on physician well-being and healthcare practitioner well-being. So there's that. And then again, the book is Relaxation on the Run.
The final two questions we ask every guest can go back to anything we've already talked about or anything you want to say. Question number one is this: who inspires you?
Oh, a lot of people, like Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi, and Congressman who passed away recently. Just read his book, Across the Bridge.
John Lewis.
I think especially today, the idea of compassion and nonviolence, the idea if someone doesn't agree with you, doesn't make them a bad person.
Or your enemy.
The idea that people who sometimes do things that are skillful, that create more love and compassion and happiness in the world, and sometimes they do things that are unskillful. But a lot of times those unskillful things come because of either ignorance or their own pain. So being able to meet everybody as much as possible with compassion, not trying to demonize anything, but I think life is really about that connection. So I think those are people who showed that.
The final question is not a question. It is a statement to finish that we end every episode with. You can say whatever you want. It goes like this: tell me something good.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. It's a pleasure being out here on this wonderful day in Santa Barbara, being the opportunity to be live in this brief little life that we have. I wake up every morning and most mornings and just say, life is brief. May I live today with compassion and wisdom, and may I treasure each moment.
Thank you, Dr. J, for sharing your good story. To read up more on his good stories, plural, start here. Go get yourself a copy of his book, Relaxation on the Run. You can check it out anywhere you book best, along with his other books. Next time on World Gone Good.
I want to heal. I want to be the best I can be. I want to achieve the highest level of wellness I can achieve spiritually, emotionally, physically, environmentally. I strive for that. I want to be an inspiration. I want to be a role model. I want people to realize the body doesn't know disease by name.
Gail Lynn is a renowned visionary, inventor, and pioneer in the realm of frequency healing. We had a theme going on here. Have you checked this out? Okay, well, what is frequency healing, you ask yourself? It's using light and sound to help you feel better. See, I said we got a theme. We're feeling better. We will be talking the good talk of how she lost and then found her own way, how her engineering background helped her to create the harmonic egg. I cannot wait for you to hear about the harmonic egg, and how we will both be at the Conscious Life Expo in LA next month. I can't wait for you to hear and feel this oh-so-good conversation on our next all-new episode. Until then, be good.